The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Tanya, and I'm the marketing manager over here at Struxsoft Solutions, which is part of the Great Tech Group. So just for those of you who are new with us today, our star solution MWF, which stands for Metal Wood Framer, is our Revit-based BIM framing solution that allows users to automate Revit walls, floors, ceilings, and trusses in like-aged steel and also in wood. So today, our technical services manager, Marilyn, will be walking you through how to set up and run floor shop drawings in MWF. So this includes how to create different views, dimension styles, and also labeling. So just before we get going, I'd like to remind everyone that at the end of the webinar, we'll be taking a couple of live questions. In order to be selected, please press the raise hand button on the dashboard. Just please also make sure that your mic is working correctly. If you'd prefer, you can also ask questions throughout the webinar by typing into the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to hand off to Marilyn now.
Hello, everyone. So like Tanya was stating, we are going to go over the floor shop drawing. We are going to go over how to create different views, the dimension styles, and labeling. So you can see in my tab up here that I switched over to the floors. And what I've also done is I just moved down the tab for the manufacturing so we can see it much better. So when it comes to our floor shop drawings, you can see that we do have two versions. We have the old version, so that's going to be our version 1, and then we also have version 2. If you are using the walls, you will see that with the walls, we do have a new version of the shop drawings. So what we have done is we have took that shop drawing engine and the settings and moved it into our floors. So I am going to be using version 2 in this webinar. So I'm just going to hit this pull down here. And you can see we do have a couple of options. So before I do that, I'm just going to go into my second floor. If I hit the pull down here, this one here is, like I said, we do have different labeling methods. And one of the methods is add member distribution. So what this does is if I do select a member, I have already ran it in this project. But you can see if we scroll down, when we select a joist, in this case, it creates a schedule, a shared parameter here as BIMSF schedule label. And so what it does, it goes through your panel's members and gives it a unique label. So if I do select the one right beside it, because it is going to be the same length, everything about it is exactly the same, it is going to get that same label. However, if I come over here, you can see it's different because the length and so forth are different than the J1. So again, that's one method that we have of when it comes to labeling. So this is something that you can do. You can run before creating your shop drawings. You have your drawing manager, you have refresh drawings, and then we have override hidden. So what the override hidden does is if you have created a shop drawing and you would like something to be shown in the shop drawings that, MWF, it's not part of MWF and you want it to show, such as, let's say, your grid lines, what you can do is you could unhide it in that view and then you just hit it, click on this option, and what it does is it will stamp it saying that you would like that option shown. Refresh view would be if, let's say, for example, you have done something in your project and your 3D view of the current view, current sheet, has shown something that you don't want. You can refresh that view and it will, minimize to the panel itself. Or you have added additional, let's say, joist. You add it as one of the commands that we have of add structural member. That again, it is under, add member. What you can do is you can refresh the view, and then when we refresh the view, we will label that member, and then the bill of material will get that quantity. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the drawing manager. And you can see in this case, I already have some views there, or some drawing settings. I have one I've created for the webinar, and then you can see we do have this default. So when creating your own drawing settings, you need to keep in count that it is project-based now. So if you are going to have a custom drawing settings, you need to make sure you export and import them throughout your projects. If you are going to have a Revit template, we would suggest you just to, create your settings in there so that your new projects, if you do start from scratch or you do, import, export, you're going to have the settings. If I do hit export, what's going to happen is a warning will pop up letting you know that we state that you should do your project standards, because you have your text notes, you have your dimension styles, if you are using any viewports, view templates. Again, we are project based, so if you can just take from one project to another, what's going to happen is the drawing settings are going to pull from or look for those information. If it does not exist, we do have default settings or dimension styles that we look at. So if I hit OK, again, I just have 2, so that's why it's by default it's going to be selected. So I'm just going to hit cancel. So again, we can hit the create default settings, and it will create one like this. Or we can hit the plus button, and this is, you're going to start one from scratch. When you hit the default drawing settings, we do give you one with a bunch of views there. You have your plan view, you have bill materials, 3Ds, you have your start and joist, tracks, and so forth. They're all in there already set up to the default, and then you can go in there and modify it. Here you can rename, you can duplicate, again, like I said, plus add a new one, and you can delete it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into my default one, just going to double click on it. And then here is the settings of our drawing views. So first things first, you need to come in here and you need to make sure that you set the layout. So this is a new thing that has been added recently. So this allows you, to select the layout of where you want the shop drawings to point to your title block. So by default, we used to do the C drive. That's what's set. However, if you do have your title blocks set to, let's say, a server, you can point the drawing settings to that location, and if the shop drawing is available there, we will pull that information. So that's a little new thing that's been added. So if I hit, set layout, again, like I said, mine's back to the default one. And if I hit the sheet layout, and it's going to bring me to the location of where it is. So this is just my C drive. Just bring that to the other side. So I've already set that up. And here is my sheet. So if I did hit the 3 buttons, or dots, sorry, it's going to go into the settings of it. If I hit the plus button, that allows us to add a new sheet. And then again, you have the remove selected. We do have a couple of options here. This would be just for, view parameters. You also have a scale here. So please note that by default, the scale is going to be blank. Mostly all our views do have a scale to it. However, if you don't select a scale and it is blank, it is going to, by default, read this information. So it's important, to set a scale here so that you know that if one of your views don't have a scale, it's going to point to this one. So you can see, like I said, we do give you ones out of the box. So we do give you some 3Ds. In our floors, you would notice that we do have the option to add sheeting. And with our shop drawings, we can, for our floor shop drawings, we can create sheeting views. Here are some of our end joist sides or tracks and so forth. You will see in this case here, these are our drafting views for our bill materials. So these are going to be line and text. With our new version 2 shop drawings, we can pull a Revit schedule. So we can now create a shop drawing using a Revit schedule. So you can see in this case, I don't have any of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that view. Also, you can see that I don't have a plan view. If we go over here, you can see we do have a couple of options. We have those three dots that allow you to go into the properties of the selected view. You have rename, you have duplicate, you have add new, and you also have deleted selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit add new. Going to hit the pull down here, and here are some of the views, or here are the views we have for our schedules that you can create. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here. I'm just going to select the schedule bill material. Again, this is the Revit schedule. These are the drafting, so these are going to be line and text. So I'm going to hit OK. So first things first, you need to name it. And then from there, we're going to hit settings, view settings. Then you have your viewport. So this is where you're going to place them. So again, in our shop drawings, we do give you a default setting. So if I just bring this over here again, we do give you a default one. And then if you open them up, you can see that we have the little squares here. So these, what we call them, are zones. And this is where we're going to place your views on. So on this little, let's say, square up here, where do I want this view to be the intersection point? So we have bottom left, and then the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's say, middle center. Again, it's up to you. And this also allows you to create a shop drawing, see it. If you don't like the placement of it, go back into your views and then, modify it. You have your layout. So again, you have your title, you have your column header, and then you have your body header. So these are the text notes that are available in the current project. You also have an option to put a title. So these are options that you have. And then the next one is the data. So since we have created a new one, we don't have any data there. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add. So if I hit the add button, just bring this a little bit above, and you can see these are all the shared parameters that are available in that project. So first things first, I'm going to go and I'm going to select the schedule label. I'm going to hit OK. You can see we have some options here. I will go over very shortly. I'm going to come back here. So I have a label. I would like, let's say maybe I would like a type. So I'm just going to scroll down to my T's. Account. And since all our families do have a reported length, I am going to go to my R's. Oops, it did select right there, reported length. Again, if you do have maybe a shared parameter you want our shop drawings to read, maybe maybe you have put an ID on something and you want us to pull that, this is an option you can use or add on it. So first things first, I'm just going to need to make sure I have set this option selected or correctly. So you can hide fields, you can sort columns. If there's anything that's empty, you can place that. So what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to say anything that's empty. You can change the header type. So oops, let me just put schedule label, or you can put label. Again, it's up to you because this is your bill material. You have your alignment, and then you also have the option to put an auto calculation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down over here. I'm going to do the same thing for the other ones. Perfect. You'll notice that we do have this duplicate existing schedule. So what this allows you to do is, if you have a schedule that you want our shop drawings to read, so that could be something like formulas, grouping, maybe a different methods. We can say duplicate from an existing one. So you will create a master container, a master, so you can see here I have a framing cut list here. you create a master one and have all your information in there, such as let's say your formulas, your groupings, your, so forth like that. And now what you can do is you can get our shop drawings to pull from that information. So what happens is this is all going to be grayed out because it's not taking that anymore. It's going to take whatever schedule you take here. Please note when you do create a schedule master container, if you are going to duplicate one of ours, just make sure, because you're going to notice in the grouping and / filters, we do have an ID, the MSF ID in there. So we just make sure to remove that because it is going to be associated to that one panel. So I'm going to hit OK. So if I just kind of scroll down, there it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the plus button again. I'm going to go into my views. And again, you can see we do have a bunch of other views here. So we have 3Ds. We do have the advanced positioning ones. This is for like the shop and the site. So again, if I do select, let's say, for example, this one here, you can see it's more for, these types of joists. So I'm just going to hit OK on that one. I'm going to go back over here, right here. And again, we have full ones, just like you can see we have here, we have bottom sheeting, we have top or plan sheeting, we have our start joist and tracks. Same thing for our ends. And for this one here, I am going to be selecting the plan view. That's the one that I want to create. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm just going to, again, name it. And you can see I have dimensions and labels here. So for my plan view, these are the dimensions that are currently available. So you have your lengths for your bottom. You have the same thing for your left and right. You have one for your top. So anytime we give you one for one side, we always give it to you for the other. You have your start joist. You can start from the start or the ends of your members. If you have any openings, we can dimension it on the top. Also the same thing for the bottom. We have the left and right for the opening heights. You have an overall diagonal. You have blocking. So if you have any blocking, we can place that. So let's say we have left bottom blocking any service holes for the bottom and the left. And then we also have the center of gravity. Our floors has an option to give you the center of gravity of that floor. You run the tool, it'll give you the center of gravity, and what we'll do is we'll dimension that information. Next one is our labeling. So I'm going to select the label panel members by method. So you can see in this case is anything you have selected is the only information you're going to put in. So if you don't need to have any of these dimensions checked, then don't have it checked because you're going to see when we get into the drawing settings that the only dimensions that you're going to select or set up is the only ones that you have clicked here. So it's much easier when it comes to putting in information. So I'm going to go into my view settings. So again, I have some options here. We have that same options here for our zones, so where we're going to be placing them. You have your viewport. Again, we do give you one that's with no title. If you were going to put a viewport, what name do you want to put on the list? Sorry. View templates. So again, these are the Revit templates. So when I showed you how to import or export them, this is the project standards. So if you are going to be using any viewports, you need to make sure you import them and export them for your other projects. You have your detail level. So again, I'm going to put it on fine. You have, if you want to, visibility style. So I'm going to put shaded. And then again, like I said, you have that dimension. So if the dimension is not set, like right now, it is going to read this information here. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, I'll say 1/8. You have the visibility catalog, or so this is basically ones that you can add. So when creating our shop drawings, what we'll do is we'll take anything that is associated to that panel. So we'll take all the joists, the tracks, the side tracks, if there's blocking, holes, so forth. However, let's say, for example, we would like to have our, I don't know, our floors shown. Let's say, for example, you can just have this option checked, and what's going to happen is when you use that drawing settings, your floors are going to show in your view because you had it checked in the in this option here. So you can say all, if you do want your Revit link, let's say, for example, if you just kind of scroll down to the R's, you have your Revit links here. So maybe if you have MEP there and you want to show it into maybe your 3D views, or in this case, your plan view, you can just by having that option checked. And then here you have show your panel label. And then you're going to notice here we do have a couple of new options. And this is just for panels that are very large. So if I just move it a little bit over here. So you can see in this case here, this panel right here. On the side here, I do have a cut. So what's going to happen is this track here, it's going to be the long side. And this is going to be my short side, or the side of the opposite direction. So here is your orientation. So if you need to flip your panel to be on the longest side or on the longest side here, you do have that option. So you would just need to have that option checked, and then we can rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. Again, as the user, you will select, or you can just flip orientation. So this is an option that we have now. And then we also have smart tags. So like I was saying before, one method that we have is the add member distribution, and that would be the schedule label. So we will give you a shared parameter for that. Also, with our shop drawings, you now have the option to create a structural tag, structural framing tag. And then in that structural tag, you can point to what shared parameter you would like. So if there's a different way of labeling a method, labeling your members that you want the software to look at, this is where you can come in here. Again, I don't have any selected in here. I do have this one here, but it is not set up to my panels. So that is an option that you have. Just gonna hit cancel. And you just need to make sure you have the option checked, and then it will pull from that information. If we go into our dimensions, here is the dimensions that we had checked. So I only checked 2 of them, so this is why there are only 2 selected at this moment. If I hit the pull down, these are all the dimension styles that are available in the project. You have the offset from your panel, and then again, you have your overall. These are the ones that are selected. Here, depending on which one you have, you'll have a little bit more settings. So this one here is top left from top left to bottom right, or we can do top right to bottom left. We do have the option to put both of them on, so if you didn't have that diagonal X, that is how you would do that. Next one is our labeling method. So like I said, we are going to be using schedule label on this one. However, if we do hit the pull down here, we do have a couple of options here. You have by name. So this will read your MWF label. So this would be what the software gives. So that would be your J1, J2, your EJ1, your ones for that we select for the side tracks and so forth. That's just the standard name that we give the members. You have by distribution. So by distribution, we'll be reading a tag mapping that is available in our C drive. And in that tag mapping is where you can go in there and say, for my joists, maybe I want to have a J. So all your joists are going to start from J0, just very similar to our schedule label. You have the schedule label that we have here. Again, you need to run the schedule label to get the schedule label. If not, it's not going to have information, so it's going to just take the distribution. Here you have a couple more options. Here you have by positioning. So we do have a tool that is available on our walls that work with our floors, and what that does, it positions all your members and also your panels and gives a unique ID for your panels. But for the members itself, it's going to go through all your members and say, okay, I see that this one is positioning 1. I have a quantity, let's say, of 20 because they're in the whole project because you have not selected anything. It's going to give it a unique ID. So what you can do is you can have it run that, take that information, and then you can show it onto your on your plan view. And then also, again, depending on what label method you select here, you need to make sure that your bill of material has the same label method so that they can match. And then the last one we have is the advanced positioning. This is if you're outputting to a machine that can create the unique ID. This is where you would want the ID to match what the output is going to be, so that when you roll the members, they're going to snap an ID on that. You want that ID to, reflect your shop drawing, so that, when someone assembles it, they can select the right members. So for this case, we're just going to go to the schedule label. You do have the option to label all members or by selection. If you do hit selection, again, you just click which one you want. So I'm going to say all. And then when it comes to the alignment of your text, you have left, right, or center of the joist. And then you also have the orientation. So the orientation, again, it only works for vertical members. So you can go horizontal or, excuse me, vertical. So again, it's up to you. And then here is your text node. So I'm going to keep the same one. Also, because we are using, in this case, schedule label, the schedule label, what it does, it goes through each of them, says we are the same length, so forth, everything about these two members are the same. We're going to get the same label. So since we have that option enabled, we also have the option to group them. So if they're very close to each other, so let's say, for example, I have 2 joists in the same location, they're back to back. What's going to happen by default is we're going to create 2 schedule labels. Sometimes the schedule labels are going to overlap. So what we could do is group them together. So it'd be, let's say, J1 bracket 2, or we can shift it to the, each side, or we can say, you know what, just don't group them. If they overlap, they overlap. Maybe you can go in there and you can, because again, after a shop drawing is created, you can go and modify the shop drawing after the fact. So I'm going to say, let's group them together. I'm going to hit OK. So now that I have all my settings selected in the way that I want, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my sheet. I'm going to hit the 3 dots. And again, like I said, this is our shop drawings. So again, the layout name is going to read this information that we have here. And then from there, these are all the zones I have, and these are all the settings that I have set up to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the ones that I don't want. So I don't want this bill of material. I do want the new one I've created. I don't want to start joist. Same thing over here and so forth. So let's just look. So I have my bill of material, my 3D, and for my elevation, I'm going to use that plan view that I have selected. So perfect. Again, if I did have the pull down, you do have a couple of options here. You can see who drew it, so you can have the information here. And then for the sheet naming method, what do you want us to read from? So by default, we're going to put it under sheets, and then by the panel name. Again, you do have the option to change that. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I go into my webinar one, you can see I've already have those already set up. So they're all here. You're gonna hit OK. OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, let's say I'll select these two here. I'm going to go into the shop drawings version 2. And this dialog box is going to pop up. So if I hit the pull down, it's going to show all the drawing settings I have. So I'm going to use the webinar. And we also have this option to override existing. So like I said before, is you can create a shop drawing, you look at the shop drawing, you can see that maybe the dimensions are not correct, maybe I don't need all those dimensions, maybe for the overall joist spacing, I would like it on, a different setting, or maybe I don't need it on both sides. You do some modifications. So when it comes to shop drawings, we ask to select the panel that has a lot of detail, get that one as the way that you would like it, and then from there select the other ones and create your shop drawings. Because any settings you do physically to the sheet itself, it only affects that sheet. It doesn't affect all of the other ones. So it's just if you are going to modify it, just get it to the way that you want it. What we'll do by default is always remove the existing ones and then override it using the new settings that you have selected here. I'm gonna hit OK. And then what's going to happen right now is it's just going to take these two sheets and it's just going to create my sheet. And it's going to put my, in this case, I think I have a plan view and a 3D view and a bill of material, and it's just going to place it. So that's currently what's happening right now. Perfect, so it's already done. So I'm just going to scroll down. So these are the ones I have. So I'm just going to pull this down here. So again, right now, with the settings, you can see that the shop drawings, it's not, the quantity is not, the grouping is not available right now. So that's something I would need to change. My 3D is fine. If I look over here, I have there's my schedule labeling. So let's say here I want to, maybe add some of the grouping together, maybe change some of the naming. So this is something that you can go into the view itself and then do the modifications. Since, like I said, it is a Revit schedule. So I'm just going to go to, let's say, edit the field. I'm going to go into my grouping. I'm going to remove this option, and I'm just going to group it by, let's say, schedule label. Hit OK. So now you can see it's much smaller. And again, since it is a schedule, I can come in here and I can just make it maybe a little bit bigger or smaller, depending on how we want it. I hit close, there it is. So now in this case, these settings, we would want to do it in the drawing manager. So if we just go back in there, let's go in here. Sorry. And then we would just need to remove this option here. And again, like I said, here we have, our settings that we have here. So depending on how we want to do it, we can, change that information. Perfect. So if I go to here, you can see that this one's already kind of set up right there. So again, you can see that, we have that long option. So if I did have that option checked, we would have had this portion here set this direction instead of its placing the way it is. Again, honestly, it depends on how you want us to place that plan view. And again, for our sheet panel 6, I would do exactly the same thing. Again, the easier method would be just to go into the drawing settings and set that up in the drawing settings so that you don't have to keep going in here and doing that same change, since it's already, the drawing settings will give you exactly what you're looking for. This one's a little bit small since it's a very plain panel. Most of the panel numbers are exactly the same. So that's why, our bill of material is a little bit smaller compared to the, other sheets that we have. Perfect. So today's webinar, we went over how to create different view settings, our dimension labels, and the dimensions, and then the labeling method.
Awesome. Thank you, Marilyn. So we have a couple of minutes if anyone would like to pose a question live. Just like to remind everyone that you can do that by clicking on the hand icon in the control panel. Just please make sure that your audio is working correctly. And just while we wait for any questions to come through, just like to let everyone know that the recording of the presentation will be sent through tomorrow. As always, please feel free to share the recording with any colleagues, as well as if you're looking for the recording a little earlier, you can typically find it at the end of the day across our social media channels. All right, I'll just give it a couple of seconds, see if anything comes through. All right, so that looks like it's a wrap for today. If there are any follow-up questions after we have closed the session, please feel free to get in touch with us. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording tomorrow. As well as if you'd like to set up a one-on-one demonstration, we'd be happy to get that set up for you. All right, we'll now be ending the webinar. I just wanted to say a big thank you to Marilyn and also thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice day.